but in any event, yeah, and wasn't there some like goofy PS3 problem? Yes, yeah, there's a problem with the Sony PlayStation last month that had to do with the fact that they'd incorrectly assumed that 2010 was a leap year, and it
Right,
threw
right.
everything off for a day, and
The
then
Y2K plus 10.
yeah. So it's kind of like even software engineers sometimes have trouble with simple things like what day is it today. So
Right, and it's interesting because not only did the PS3 have problems, certain Windows mobile phones had the issue, and certain credit card machines, and some were saying it was a binary encoding issue. But I know my computer didn't think it was,
yeah,
there
yeah,
was supposed to be a leap year, so that wasn't a problem there.
yeah. Well, the rules for leap year are kind of interesting. I mean, we all know it's every 4 years, but it doesn't. You don't have a leap year in any year that ends in 10, or in any year that's a century. And there's like a bunch of arcane little rules. So you can have a leap
Hmm.
year if it. I mean, it's you know, and it all has to do with the fact that the Earth is totally uncooperative in refusing to circle the sun in an even number of days exactly. So
Right, because the Earth was designed by man and
yeah,
should
yeah, we can't.
adhere to our
Yeah, yeah,
standards of
yeah.
time.
We just need to slow it down just a little bit. No, that would be a bad idea.
We get some giant thrusters
Yeah, yeah.
on one side of the planet and just fire
Earth
away.
spins out of control off into the universe. That would be no good. But
There was a Twilight Zone episode
yeah,
about that.
I think there
where,
was. Yeah,
they were dreaming that the Earth was getting closer to the sun, and they woke up and realized, nope, the Earth is getting farther from the sun.
yeah,
So good luck with that.
yeah, yeah. Get your parka.
Yeah. Speaking of the web, URL shorteners. There's an interesting article I read this last week about how URL shorteners are slowing down web times, and I had to laugh at this one because they're getting into, the web shorteners are adding an extra second to page loading times. And I thought, are you that greedy? Are you that crammed for time where you can't wait an extra second for your page to load or half a second? They're getting all whipped up in this article about it. And URL shorteners are inherently dangerous because they can lead you to pretty much anywhere. You have no idea where you're going.
You have no idea where you're going, and and to the best of my knowledge, there's no way to find out. A traditional hyperlink, where it says click here, and there's the here is highlighted blue. If you hover your mouse, that little hand of the internet over there for about 2 seconds, a window will pop up with the actual destination. But these domain names are these URL shortener services like Bitly and
Tiny URL.
and the Tiny URL and what have you. Pretty much mask the ultimate destination. It makes it just really, really too easy for those hacker fellows we were talking about earlier to send you a Bitly link. Basically, I've compromised your friend's email, and now I'm, sending out an email that says, "Hey, check out these great pictures here," and they send you a link off of Bitly or Tiny URL, and you've got no idea where you're going until after you've received your malicious software download. So I'm not a fan. I don't use them. I don't use them on my Twitter account. I have a domain name for my blog that's short enough that it fits in the space, and if I'm talking to, I just generally, if I need to refer people to a longer web address, I'll post it in my blog and then Twitter it out to everybody and
That's a good idea.
let them make the trip. But
and that way, at least you get a hit to your.
oh well,
to your
there
website
is
then.
that too, and that thought didn't exactly escape my consideration. So
Sure. I know that Twitter is now beginning to filter out some of these shortened URLs where they'll catch the URL, and possibly adding a second. Sorry if you fellows out there that are upset about that extra second download time. But Twitter says they're going to start helping people avoid some of that malware by filtering out some of the garbage.
yeah, that would make
Which is
sense.
kind of them. It's good of them.
It's not a hard thing, to take a look at the set up a machine, take a look and see if there's like anything nasty happening there, and then bonk it out. I imagine that the security software vendors will probably create some sort of URL shortening detection and avoidance.
Sure. for an extra $10 a month, probably, or some sort of deal.
Watch for Norton Internet Security 2011. No, I'm I haven't heard that, but wouldn't surprise me if it happened.
Yeah. Another thing that's kind of come up for thinking of the golden age of computing, the old Commodore 64.
Ah, yes.
I had one. I used it to. I created these vignettes for Star Trek, and I'd use some animation game for the Super Nintendo to create my animation. Then I'd use the Commodore 64 to produce the dialogue, and I'd record it on my VCR, and you get to read this wonderful story about Captain Kirk and investigating some ship and whatnot. And the Commodore 64 is coming back, and their new specs on their new machine is going to offer a 500 gig hard drive, 4 whopping gigs of RAM, a DVD RW drive, a touchpad, 4 USB ports, and an Ethernet port and a digital video interface, a DVI port, so you can connect it to your computer monitor. I don't know if you can see the picture there.
Nice.
It looks very reminiscent of the old Commodore 64.
It sure does.
It's just the keyboard with the trackpad, the DVD-ROM drive sticking out the side.
And a nice little carrying handle on the left side.
Exactly. You need that carrying handle. So I don't know. I mean, do you think Commodore 64 can make it back into the hearts and minds of this younger generation?
Well, it might come in sort of like possibly the reverse direction. There's enough old school gamers out there who are your age and my age who might pick one up just as a hoot, and then their kids or kids that know them will be going, hey, what's with that? And so that might be, instead of the young early adopters, it might be more the older demographic pushing it down the age skill rank. Do you know if is this using the same Commodore operating system? Are they?
It's a good question. I don't know what operating system it's going to use exactly. Let me just scan the article here quick.
Yeah, because I'm sort of remembering, and I may be wrong, but I'm sort of remembering that it was CPM was the operating system, and the guy that had invented it was actually a pretty nifty little operating system. And the story was that Bill Gates and company had tried to license CPM for use in the project that they had with IBM that led to DOS. And the guy who was owned and developed CPM had blown off the meeting and gone sailing, and it kind of ticked off Bill, and that was the end of that. So we might all be working on CPM-based machines if it hadn't been for that
right.
one
well,
particular meeting.
In an alternate timeline, where the meeting did take place, we're probably doing exactly that.
Yep, and we're all on Commodores, and that Apple may never have happened. Who knows? But
exactly.
Well, that'd be interesting to see how that plays out. I think that after about 40 years of dominating the operating system market, the Windows is actually getting a serious run for their money in other areas. We talked about Android. Linux has been becoming much more user friendly, and of course, vastly more affordable.
I think the thing for Linux is that once you get a graphical user interface, you're going to attract more people. Yeah. Working from a command line just doesn't do much for the average home user.
Yeah, and the Linux is still dominant. Linux/Unix is still dominant on the web. Most web servers are running some flavor of Unix, and with so many more applications and services being out on the web, I think it's it wouldn't surprise me that there'd be a parallel track, movement to the desktop, when it doesn't matter because you're not using, Microsoft products. Having a Microsoft operating system isn't really important to you either. So that'd be interesting to see how that plays out over the next, 10 to 15 years.
Right, especially when you get involved with more open source software like OpenOffice, for example. Sure, you can have Ubuntu on your laptop and download OpenOffice, and it runs on it just fine. Mm-hmm. And you have your Gmail for your web client.